Hello again. We are the Fantasy Sultans here to rescue you from an awful week 4 in
Mm.
fantasy football. I'm Tripp Rogers. He's the Hall of Famer Mike Sheck, and we are glad to be with you. Week 5 adorns, bud. Mike, week 4. Boy, how the mighty have fallen, and the Giants won a game. Oh, the
Hello.
Giants won a game. And so did Mac, for that matter.
Yes.
Mike,
Yeah, well,
Mike,
yeah,
you
this is where
need,
I lead
Mike,
in, right?
we're dropping this on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. You
Mm.
must atone for your sins. You must atone and give Mac what he deserves.
Well, he did deserve a lot because I'll tell you what, his players stepped up in a big way last week. I mean, I scored close to 100 points, but he just outscored me. I mean, and he had some great players. And so hats off to him. I mean, that's what fantasy is all about. Most points win it, and he got it that last week. That's for
Did
sure.
you did you happen to see in the Sultans League who scored the most points last week?
Hmm.
Did you happen to see? And
Yes, I
did you
did.
happen to see who that was against? The defending league champions. That's what you
Yes.
call a hammer job. But I got to talk, I got to talk about another league, a league we were both in, and the other league we're in with Mac. I'm in with Mac. And I almost had my second consecutive Monday night miracle. Last week, David Montgomery got me 30 points, and I actually won a game I thought I was going to lose. And then this week, Justin Fields. Justin Fields became Joe Willie Namath. And then, of course, the Denver defense is going against Cincinnati. And I lost by a point. And it's funny because I work, my boss at work is a Cincinnati Bengals fan. I said, your team stinks. And he's like, yeah, you're right. You're right. My team stinks. What can I say? So there you go. All right, let's talk. First off, obviously, we've got to deal. I mean, injuries continue to be a key, and once again, you see that. I mean, Monday night, Tyreek Hill. Now we were down on Tyreek this year,
Yeah.
but that injury.
Gruesome. Yeah.
Listen, I don't. Do you really think Tyreek comes back from that? I don't think so. I mean, I know they're saying all the right things, but I just, Tyreek, does he really? Well, I don't know. Maybe he needs to pay off his wife. I don't know. But I don't see how you can come back from that. And again, Tyreek is known for his speed. And I'm just like, I just don't see it.
Well,
I
I'll
just
tell you,
don't see it.
I'll say something about Tyreek. I mean, and the injury that happened. I mean, it's an ACL, and we know what happens with ACLs. They are, 9 months to 12-month recovery timetable.
Yeah.
You talk about whether or not he's going to come back or not. We question that. The same thing with Christian McCaffrey. Could he come back from an injury? And look what he's doing now. But
Yeah.
it all depends on the progress and the healing process. But I still question ACLs because you do talk about that being up to a year timetable. I don't foresee him playing I don't see him in training camp. I don't see him getting, playing in the preseason, and he may not even start the regular season next year if he were to play again in the NFL. So, ACLs are questionable. So you're talking about maybe late September that he gets back into game action. That would be, the full year recovery. But from that standpoint too, I mean, you're talking about Tyreek Hill, a mid to late round 3, maybe round 4. Kind of getting some promise in that game against the Jets. He had 6 receptions for 67 yards, but somebody's got to step up in 2 offenses now. We'll talk about Malik Neighbors' injury coming up, but
Yeah.
Malik
Yes.
Washington has got to be the number 2 wide receiver now, the logical choice in Miami to step up in the place for Tyreek Hill. But I don't know that there is really one clear-cut player for the New York Giants on that side. Malik Neighbors also suffering an ACL injury. He is done for the year. I don't know that there's a clear-cut player for the New York Giants in that offense. Okay, maybe Wan'Dale Robinson, but Darius Slayton could be the one that really steps up because he's got the most experience. So, that's something
But
interesting to
Mike, hang
watch.
on a second. You're talking about a Malik Neighbors who last year, through wretched quarterback play, was able to catch over 100 passes.
Right.
And all everybody talked about this year is how he's going to get better quarterbacks to play with. And to now have this injury, I mean, the New York Giants, oh yeah, they won their game Sunday. But anybody who watched that game realizes this Giant team, not very good offensively. I mean, Cam Scatterbo had a great game, and I think we called that. You saw some promise with him. But at the wideout position, the Giants do not have that one wide receiver that really can get separation. Malik Neighbors was that wide receiver. And now, you double down on Wan'Dale Robinson. Maybe Darius Slayton becomes a key, but Theo Johnson at tight end. But that running attack has got to do better than it was. I mean, I will say this. I think of the two injuries, Malik Neighbors, I think, was more devastating to a team because Tyreek, you're right. Tyreek had a good game Monday, but Miami's offense has been struggling.
Yeah.
But they got Jalen Waddle, who's not a bad wide receiver. I mean, he's established himself. And they got, A-Chain. He's a great running back. And Tua, decent quarterback. I wouldn't say he's great, but he's a decent quarterback. So and Jackson Dart, I mean, he's a rookie. And, there's only so much a rookie can do, be it good or bad. I mean, I don't want to minimize what he's done, but I'm not sold. I'm not, sold. And again, the problem is Sunday, the Giants are going to go against a team they should beat. And the problem is the Giants are going to play down to their opponent. And if they win this game, it's going to be a nail biter. And then, you got to go against the Eagles 2 of the next 3 games. Now, I know it's not the Eagles team that absolutely dominated Kansas City. They're a pretty good damn team right now. And, the only problem is I just wonder if they're going to implode from the inside because A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith not happy with Jalen Hurts right now. And again, that's the only thing I think that could ruin this Eagles team. And I mean, unfortunately, it takes me back to 2005 when you had all the issues with Terrell Owens and that Eagle team imploded from within a year after they'd gone to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, that's my thoughts. And fantasy-wise also, we got to touch on the Cleveland Browns making a change. You've got a new quarterback, not named Sanders. Dylan Gabriel gets the call. Yeah. And again, all you hear is how great Shedeur Sanders is, how great he is. He'll tell you that. Dion will tell you that. He's so great. Why is he not starting? And he didn't want to go to Baltimore because he didn't want to sit behind Lamar Jackson for 10 years. Lamar's not going to play this week, folks. He still could be starting this week, but no, he's going to be the 3rd string quarterback in England for the game against the Minnesota Vikings. I'll tell you, I love Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan did a number on him on Monday on Get Up. I mean, I've seen that clip has gone viral. He did a number on Shedeur Sanders. And I think Rex is saying stuff they're saying around the NFL. And I'll tell you something. If you were one of those morons who drafted Shedeur Sanders on your fantasy team, well, hopefully you're not listening to this podcast, because if you are, for shame.
Yeah.
You will make our Fantasy Festivus list of grievances. You will be one of the grievances we're going to have. I mean, Lamar Jackson's injury, Bucky Irving's injury, and I'll touch on that because import exports this week. I'm talking about Rashad White, Tampa Bay. I'm giving you a sneak preview here, but that's an injury that really hard to understand. But Then again, there's such secrecy in the NFL with injuries and stuff like that sometimes, and that is one of the things that you have to deal with. But I mentioned it. I ticked it off. Import exports. Here we are, week number 5. Mikey, who you got?
I've got Matt Stafford for the Los Angeles Rams. He had a nice week against Indianapolis, 375 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Over the last 3 games, he's scored at least 15 fantasy points thanks to multiple passing touchdowns. He's also had at least 33 attempts with a season high coming last week at 41. I kind of had like an oopsie in one of my leagues. I picked him up as a second quarterback by mistake. I was trying to grab somebody else. Well, here's an instance where the oopsie was, one of those oops, uh, you know, kind of
Hey, it's
in a
never
good
a
way.
mistake. It's
In
never a
a good
mistake if
way.
it works out right.
That's right.
There you go.
That's for sure. So, if you're going to start Stafford this week, well, you better pick him up and start him because he's got the Thursday night game against the 49ers this week. So a short turnaround if you're picking him up. If not, well, he might be an option that you want to pick up next week down the line. I'm going to stay in the NFC West with Arizona running back Emery DeMercado. The Arizona backfield struggled in its first game against last week when they were without James Conner. Trey Benson had 10 fantasy points. He failed to move the needle despite a backfield of 13 touches. DeMercado had 10 fantasy points as well and had less touches. So that's going to signal, I think, DeMercado getting a little bit more action in that Arizona offense. And definitely, I would want to pick him up down the line. If you don't, even if you stash him, he's definitely a pickup. All right, let's go to wide receiver and talk about Eric A. Manor from Tennessee. Now, 47 receiving yards last week, 2 touchdowns, 2 red zone targets. He led the Titans with a 26.9% target share, and he's looking more like the team's #1 wideout. Listen, I'm telling you right now, Calvin Ridley is cooked for the Titans. He does not look like that wide receiver. I drafted him in one league, and I have been disappointed. He can make the list of grievances at the end of the year if he does not keep up his end of the bargain. But last week, though, you talk about a manner. He's got a nice lineup coming up. Week 6, baby, a flex play against Las Vegas. Then he's got New England and Indianapolis. Titans aren't good right now. So I would not want to be rostering too many Titans, but he's a player that you definitely want to pick up and could get you the points that you need. All right, let's go on to the exports and running back Nick Chubb in Houston. Now, the workload for Chubb was existent when he was averaging 13 touches through weeks 1 through 3, but he's been fairly inefficient with only one long touchdown run coming in week number 2. I told you about Woody Johnson last week. Woody Marks. I'm thinking of the Jets.
Woody Johnson.
Woody Johnson.
NYJ owner.
That's right. Told you about Woody Marks last week as an import. I think it's hard to roll it back with Chubb after Marks had that great performance last week, 119 yards, 2 touchdown performance. Another running back you can drop, Tank Bigsby in Philadelphia. He was traded to the Eagles from Jacksonville, and since then, he has not seen the ball. Third on the depth chart. Surprisingly, he's still rostered in about 33% of leagues. I think owners have been far too patient with him. I think he only sees action if Saquon Barkley suffers an injury or somehow the Eagles decide to put him in a goal line situation. He is not the person that you want on your roster right now. And finally, Seattle wide receiver Cooper Kupp. Tripp, I got to say this, but this is really painful. But we've got to be honest here and face the facts. Sam Darnold's target distribution has been widespread throughout that Seahawks offense. Last week, 8 pass catchers got the ball. Count them. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Elijah Arroyo, Eric Barner, Kenneth Walker, Cooper Kupp, Jake Bobo, Torrey Holton, and Zach Charbonnet. Yeah. 8 pass catchers getting a piece of the pie. I don't know about you, Tripp, but that's too many cooks in the kitchen for me.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of fantasy relevance. The only thing is a couple of injuries could change that. But when you talk about
That's it.
injuries, Cooper Kupp always seems to get dinged up. I mean, I think that was a knock on him when he was with LA. And I want to just go back a second with the Woody Marks. You're talking about Woody Marks, and I think we were not high on Chubb this year. And I
Yeah.
think we had talked about that, and I said, yeah, we liked him, at first in that bag. Well, of course, Joe Mixon. Now they're saying Mixon may be out for the entire year. That's the rumors that are coming. So if you got Joe Mixon, if you do, I think it's time to get rid of him.
Yeah.
But Joe Mixon is, and Chubb was the guy who was going to be the replacement. But Woody Marks has come from nowhere, and Woody Marks is probably not available in your league. If you've not gotten him yet, then you're not getting him. I mean, that's plain and simple. All right, I'm going to go imports first, and I'm going to go on running back. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Rachaad White. Now, one of the things about Tampa, and we knew this going into the season, that Bucky Irving was going to be the guy there. And Rachaad White was kind of forgotten. Well, Bucky Irving is going to miss some time. And that means that White will probably be the number one back on this offense. That's not bad. But listen, the Buccaneers offense, not too bad. And White has been RB2 even before. Sean Tucker could steal some time this time around, but White is a guy, again, if Irving is fine, then White goes down, and I think he has no relevance. But if Bucky Irving is out for any length of time, and again, he's probably going to miss this week, that's everything's saying he's doubtful, then I would grab Rachaad White. If you're looking for a running back, import him. Speaking of running backs to import, now, this is somebody who probably might be overlooked in a lot of leagues and is probably still available because he's on a bye this week. But Pittsburgh's Kenneth Gainwell, you'll forget about him this week because the Steelers are on a bye. Now, Jaylen Warren was out, and he was a surprise scratch on Sunday in Ireland, and Gainwell was the beneficiary. And if you had him on your team, or you had him, probably had him on your bench, like me, and but Warren should be fine in a couple of weeks, but Gainwell will get more work probably given his week 4 performance. And I think, I'm not saying it's going to be a timeshare, but Gainwell's going to get some yardage. And this is something that we talked about when he was with the Eagles last year. All of a sudden Gainwell was stealing touchdowns, if you remember last year. So that's why I would think about picking him up. And again, bye weeks, you got to keep that in mind, but you could probably get him if he's available on waivers because nobody's going to pick him up because he's on bye this week. So just saying.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, Isaiah Bond for Cleveland. Now, Bond was a top 5 wideout in the draft, but of course, Bond, if you recall, had the issues and nobody drafted. Cleveland signed him late. Well, with the change in quarterbacks, he's worth grabbing because he'll probably be a little bit of an upgrade. And the other part of this is Cedric Tillman is now on IR with a hamstring issue. So Isaiah Bond could be somebody who could pay off in the long run. Of course, if you listen to the Fantasy Sultans, we already told you Harold Fanine, tight end, was the guy to get. And everybody listened. Everybody's got him. So Isaiah Bond could be, and Isaiah Bond has got some great speed. And he will, I again, be curious to see how Isaiah Bond works with Dylan Gabriel, since both of them, I don't think they were on the second string, I think, all year so far. All right, some exports for you. Now, one of the things we touted in our draft strategy special was, if you're going to wait on a quarterback, you might want to get Geno Smith. He's going to Las Vegas. You got Pete Carroll there. You got a decent running back in Ashton Genty. You got Brock Bowers at tight end. And you got a couple of wide receivers. I think he'd be pretty good. Now,
No.
now, Now, unfortunately, while his yardage numbers and his completion percentage have not been terrible so far, but he's had one good fantasy outing, one okay one, and two clunkers. And the thing is, he's on pace to throw 30 interceptions this year. Get another quarterback if you can. I mean, Geno, I don't even know if Geno's worth keeping around for a bye week unless you check what the bye week is and see who the Vegas Raiders are playing. But yeah, no, I would not sit there and hang on to Geno Smith. And also, export Hollywood Brown for Kansas City. Here is a case where, again, we thought this is great. Hollywood Brown's a good guy to pick up, good bench strength. Well, if he's available on your waiver wire, don't pick him up, because if you've already dropped him, leave him there. Think about this. Worthy is back. Rashee Rice is close. That's all you need to say about Hollywood Brown. As we head into wrap up this edition of the Fantasy Sultans, Mike, we talk about buys, and the buys start this week. And one thing you've got to watch is players on buy. And you've also got to watch who you are dropping, because smart people, like the ones who listen to the Fantasy Sultans, will scoop up your leftovers. And you got to watch that. And you've got to, again, I think Mike and I talk about this. We always try to think a week ahead. And that's what you've got to do. Not necessarily you have to do it all the time, but you've got to think about what you're doing. And you don't want to go, I mean, check the buy situation, especially now as we're going into buys, because you don't want to drop somebody because they're on a buy and pick up somebody who's got another buy coming. You want to pick up somebody who you can have the rest of the season. I'm talking about kickers. I'm talking about tight ends, because we only carry one of them. Quarterbacks, some teams only have one. If you've got a late buy, you may have to think about picking up another quarterback. But again, check, make sure you understand. What advice have you? Because you were the Hall of Famer and I'm not.
Well, I would say when it comes to buys as well, I would look a few weeks in advance. I would prepare for your buy. I mean, not only, a week before, but I would look at a couple of weeks ahead of time, because you want to be prepared. If there is a player that, who is hot on the waiver wire, you grab him, you stash him, and then obviously you roll with him when one of your buy players are off. So,
Yes.
I mean, I would say definitely plan in advance. And, we always say have a backup plan, but planning in advance also helps you out. You know what else helps you out? At the quarterway of the season, I think there has been one player who has certainly helped you out if you picked him up. And I don't know that a lot of people did pick him up, and drafted him. We talked about him slightly getting the edge over, Anthony Richardson. But for certain, Daniel Jones in Indianapolis has been that one surprising player at the quarter mark of the season who's gone to a new team, has a new outlook, has been pretty awesome so far. He's averaged about 20 fantasy points. Yeah, the team lost last week, but he still turned in a 260-plus yard day, one touchdown, two interceptions. He would have had a second touchdown if Adonai Mitchell did not fumble the ball out of his hands before getting to the end zone. Now, I want to see if this trend continues for Daniel Jones.
What, Adonai Mitchell dropping the ball?
Yeah, Donnie. we want to see if the trend though continues for Daniel Jones for certain.
I agree. I agree. By the way,
is it fool's gold or not? We're gonna have to see.
I don't know if you know, on Hulu they now have the series Chad Powers, and it's the setup for it. Eli Manning is the one, and they're producing the show, but the setup for it is quarterback is going to run into the end zone and win the national championship. He drops the ball before he gets in. Georgia picks it up, runs it all the way back. They win the national championship. And this guy's life then, of course, goes terrible. And he then he then walks on as, wearing a disguise at another college. I mean, I watched the first episode, but I just it's funny you say that. And it's just how life kind of imitates art. to a certain extent.
Yep.
But and it was funny because I was talking to my fiance and I said, "Oh yeah, this is something Eli Manning did a couple of years ago." What? Yeah, Eli Manning. Eli Manning. I'm trying to remember, Mike. Was it a college tryout? Did he go to college or did he go to a pro team? I can't remember. He tried out. He had the makeup on, and they filmed it. He was
Yeah.
Chad
Yeah.
Powers.
Yeah.
I thought it was a college team. I really did. And this was after he retired, obviously. But it's funny. It's just hysterical. So that's the premise of the show. Glenn Powell is the star of it. And if you watch Top Gun, and he was great in Top Gun, and he's the hot guy of the du jour, shall we say. Anyhow, onward and upward fantasy football. Week 5 is coming up. Again, we are here with you every week. We drop the episode Thursday, 9:00 in the morning. That way you can get set for the Thursday night game. And we can get you can make your picks and stuff. And hopefully that you can use the little scraps that we have given you to try and beat us in the Fantasy Sultans League, like Mac did, beating you. He will not beat me. I will not allow it. He has not beaten me in 2 years. This will be year number 3. I know all good things got to come to an end, but not this year. Not this year, Mac. No, I'm sorry. It will not happen. You know who else? You know who else took great joy in beating both of us? The Scott.
That's right. Our good friend, the Scott. Yeah.
Good friend, the Scott. May he rest in peace. But of course, he passed away just after I whooped him in fantasy football. I know I shouldn't laugh about that because I miss the Scott because, listen, fantasy drafts with the Scott were hysterical because he would always insist on announcing his pick.
And it would be with the blank pick, the Scott picks. And then that would be the pick every single time. We would go up there. We'd have our draft board because this was back in the day when drafts were live and in person. We'd have the draft board and we'd have sticker bitch and and we'd have a good time.
And we would have Marie doing commentary, and she didn't learn from us. That was the problem. Good times, good times. And we've done the Fantasy Sultans for years now, and good times. Definitely good times. Anyhow, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email fantasysultans@gmail.com. Matt Lee wants to come on our show. So does Mac.
Okay.
So I want to get both of them on. I think Stephanie will probably want to make an appearance, although, she's not showing me much. Although, wait, she did score points this year. She was on a date and she did the draft while on her date. So she scored some points. And like I said at the time, I don't know whether to be proud of her for doing the draft or angry with her for not paying attention to her date. He hasn't gone out with the guy since. So, and the guy had no input. The guy had no input for the draft. So I'm like, okay, all right,
interesting.
Yeah. Forget about him.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he's the Hall of Famer Mike Scheck. I'm Tripp Rogers. We are here to help you. We want you to win, just not against us.
We give you the input. Yeah, we give you the input.
We want you to win, just not against us. We give you the input to win. We help you. And just think, folks, we're less than 3 months from Fantasy Festivus. Yeah. Join us every week. I forgot about the mention of the radio show. Sunday with the Sultans is on Sundays. What time are we on this week?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock in the morning this Sunday. We'll be on Fox Sports Radio New Jersey and foxsportsradionewjersey.com and all kinds of Fox Sports stations in New Jersey. We do our Sundays with the Sultans, a little different show than what we do here, but you can catch that on the radio. Every week you join us here. We give you the knowledge. We help you. We're giving because we are the Fantasy Sultans.
And you are not.